Hello, and you are listening to the Tech Tonic podcast where we talk and discuss about all things tech. And today you're joining me again and Jeevan,
Yo.
I'm Darwin, obviously, for episode 23 of the season 2 of Tech Tonic podcast. So, we're still in lockdown.
Yep,
There's
nothing has
no way
changed.
around it. Nothing has changed. We're still doing this from home. Okay, so if you're wondering how we're recording this, we're using Discord and whatever tools that's available for us. And if you missed it, I think a few episodes ago we mentioned about the equipments that we're using to record our podcast, and that is to use a Razer Siren Mini. Both of us have one. Yeah.
And it's pretty clear if I'm not mistaken lah.
What do you mean by if you're not mistaken?
I don't know, they're hearing it.
Well, yeah. So if you listen to our own podcast in Spotify, you would know lah, right? It's pretty good. I didn't add any tuning to it and stuff like that. But anyway, let's move on to the news for the past week. The past week hasn't been, as noisy as the last week, because this week is going to be very noisy again because of Samsung, right? Samsung's going to launch their new foldable smartphones. We're hoping,
and
or at
wireless
least we
earbuds.
know. Yeah, in this few days times, 11th, and you can watch that live on YouTube. I think yes. But last week there's still stuff that happened. I think Klipsch and Logitech both launched their own true wireless earbuds, and they are very expensive. $299 US. That's also about the same price as the Sony WF-1000 X Mark 3 and 4 when they launched, right? But for Klipsch, this is like a kind of an update to an old product that they have, the T5, and this is a T5 Mark II. And it still looks the same to me, but apparently this is actually better, right? And they added some new AI on it so that you can answer your phone without actually tap on the earphone or touch your phone. You just like nod and
apparently
you can answer the phone.
It's gesture based, but I still don't understand how it works.
Yeah, don't rock your head.
Which will be very hard if you're listening to rock music.
Yeah, so if you're listening to those kind of musics where your head goes up and down, maybe you want to think about that. But I don't know. We haven't tried it yet. Okay, we haven't actually tried the Klipsch headphones in the past as well, so we can't really comment on its sound quality. Logitech ones, though, is actually made more for the work from home situation, from what I understand, right? They actually made this to be certified by, Zoom from Microsoft Teams and even Google Meet. So this is actually certified for video calls. How that works for a wireless earbuds, I'm not sure. How it will affect your music listening experience, I hope in a good way. We're not sure yet.
I'm actually thinking, like, you get certified for Microsoft Teams, Skype, and stuff like that. What's the certification for?
Maybe better conversations. I don't know. I mean, it is true that if you buy like wireless earphones, sometimes when you use them for video calls or even like your phone calls, it's not the greatest. I.e., for example, the Sony WF-1000 X Mark III that we have. The names are so long.
Yeah.
Those are not the best for even calls because they tend to sound a bit muddly sometimes.
I think it's also because the mic is doing double duty. It's picking up ambient noise and your voice.
Correct. So I don't know how they're gonna solve this problem with the Logitech Yanko design thing. They partnered with Yanko Design basically. Looks kind of like a minimized Logitech Bluetooth speaker, in my opinion.
It does.
Tiny tad bit, a bit, yeah.
It actually does.
It does. It actually does. And then last week also we see Google coming out to say they're not going to support Android 2.3.7 anymore. This is gingerbread. Yeah, we were brainstorming this. We actually called it Jelly Bean for some reason. And then after that, we were like, wait, no, 2.1 was Eclair. 2.2 was what was what
Froyo.
was Froyo, and then after that, oh wait, no, it's gingerbread. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
2.3.7 and
yeah,
older.
so basically it's end of lifing a whole chunk of old devices.
Yes.
Like I was trying to find out how many percent of the active Android devices actually run 2.3.7 and below. It's
Not
less
much.
than 1% of devices. So
It's not a lot. It's very little.
yeah, very little.
2.3.7 is years ago.
I'm guessing
This,
this might just affect those those China car units.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
But
so it might affect that, but that's
but
about it.
most of the, those head units that you can get, an OEM one,
Mm-hmm.
they're running at least Honeycomb right now, or at
Yeah,
least Android 8. Like the new ones come out with Android 8, if I'm not wrong, right? So yeah, it's very little people using 2.3.7 anyway.
yeah.
You're not
So
gonna be able to use Google Play after that. Google Play Store after that.
yeah, basically anything that runs on the Google Play services dies.
Yes. Google also launched, well, not launched, they confirmed the existence of their new Pixel devices. They are called the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, not Pixel 6, what was it called? XL before this, right?
Yeah,
The 5 and the 5 XL. So it's a Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro. It's just two devices, two flagships. They run on the same processor, the same SoC, you can call it, right? It's a Tensor. I almost called it a TensorFlow, but it's not a TensorFlow. It's it's a Tensor SoC, Google
yeah.
Tensor.
Google Tensor. It
Yes,
was Whitechapel before this, but
yes,
it's interesting to see how this is going to perform.
yeah.
And
So
it's
it's
also
not.
a step away from Qualcomm, which is big for Google.
Yes, it's not a Qualcomm processor this time, right? And years they have been developing on Qualcomm for years and years and years, and this time they are sort of stepping away, but not really stepping away from their usual partners,
Yeah,
because this Tensor processor is rumored to be produced by Samsung anyway, which they have done before in the past. So it's
yeah.
not brand new, but kind of something to look forward to, I guess. I don't know.
I'm interested to
It-
see how it stacks up to the competition.
Yeah, me too. We don't know much about the device though, so we only know how it looks and basically these things. Okay, they didn't even confirm the screen size. They confirmed how many cameras it's gonna come with. The Pro will come with, I think, 3 cameras at the back, and the regular one will come with 2. They didn't even really confirm what kind of megapixel we're getting, I think, if I'm not wrong, if I remember it correctly. Anyway,
We
correct me if
should
I'm.
know like in a few weeks' time. I
Yeah,
mean, it is
when
it is time for all the big hardware launches of the year.
yeah, we are just waiting for time, basically.
Yeah,
YouTube is also in the news last week because they launched something called YouTube Premium Lite in
yeah.
Europe.
So it's available in a handful of countries, mainly Scandinavian countries, and it's
Mhm.
just basically paying for the ads to go away.
Yeah, so it's an ad blocker
Yeah.
for YouTube ish.
So not like YouTube Premium. Like YouTube Premium, you get all the originals and stuff like that.
Hmm.
YouTube Premium Lite just basically cuts out everything else. I think even background play is not available on YouTube Premium Lite.
Right, so it's just an ad blocker.
Yep.
Yeah, basically. And how much is it?
699 euros. So it's about 30
Oh, that's actually
ringgit.
quite expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually quite a lot of money for YouTube Premium Lite for just an ad blocker.
Yep. So
Okay.
if we go with percentage wise on the decrease according to what we see in Malaysia,
Hmm.
we will be paying about 12 ringgit for premium light compared to the 1790 if for premium if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that's not too bad, but you might as well go premium.
Yeah.
Saying, just saying. Okay, and then Spotify also launched something really like not light lah. Okay, they launched Premium Mini, something called Spotify Premium Mini. Kind of.
Yeah, it's basically daily and weekly subscriptions.
Yeah, and it's not very expensive also, right? On a daily basis, you're paying 1 ringgit every day.
Yeah,
Like if you're using it on a daily basis lah, okay, and if you're paying for weekly, I think it's what 390 a week.
about there. But the
Yeah.
only difference that stands out from the regular premium plan
Mhm.
is that if you're going on the go, you can only download 30 episodes or sound files.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I think it's fine.
Yeah, unless you're going for a long haul trip, which
Yeah,
I don't think you will be at this point.
and at
30
this
songs
point,
should be.
I think Spotify Premium itself on a monthly basis is not super expensive
No,
anyway,
it isn't.
right? And if you're going to get a family plan that you're going to share with your friends, it's even cheaper.
Yeah.
So I don't see the reason of, introducing the mini plans, but I guess there is some demand for like a daily plan or something. Probably
I think
works.
Spotify has been playing around with like 3 day subscription, 2 day
Mm, mm,
subscription for a
mm, mm.
while now.
Yeah,
So I think this is a translation of that.
probably, but I still don't see the point. I mean, if you just get like 4 of your friends to come together to share the Spotify premium plan, and each of you are like paying what? Just a little bit of money. Not a lot.
You're paying less than 60 ringgit a year.
Yeah, yeah. Makes sense to me, right? Okay,
Yeah.
Oppo. Oppo launched a new phone last week. This is the Reno 6.
2 new phones.
Yes. Reno 6 and the Reno 6Z basically, right?
Yeah.
So they are powered by this is a mid-range phone, so you can't expect like a Qualcomm 800 series to run on this thing. It's basically a MediaTek device,
Yeah.
which to me is quite surprising actually, because even their old Reno did have a Qualcomm option.
Yeah, it did. But at the same time, even the processors on the new Reno 6 and 6Z, they are not uh bottom of the line MediaTek processors. They're the
Mm-hmm.
MediaTek 900U
Mm-hmm.
and the 800, which are just
You
one
mean
or two steps below
you
the Dimensity 1000.
you mean it's the MediaTek 800U and the Dimensity 900?
Yep.
Yeah, so they're not high end. Like what Jivan says, is not really high end, right? And they're sort of towards the mid high range, but it's still
Yeah.
5G devices, which is still okay lah, I guess, right? It's not bad.
I think uh the Reno 6 was aiming for a price point, not
Mm,
really the specs, because before this we always saw the Reno as pushing camera technology.
true.
They were very, very, very on the point with camera technology.
That is
B-
true.
But this year's version seems to be a very scaled back Reno compared to the Reno 5 that we had previously.
True. And I was basically making a note out of this, and I actually wanted to see, oh, this is a camera phone. Like, they have been selling this as a camera phone, and it came with a 64 megapixel sensor, which is not bad considering, but doesn't sound like it's a big improvement over the old Oppo Reno
Yeah,
5.
I mean, I think the first Reno and the first few Renos, both of us actually had the reaction of, why do you need so many megapixels?
Yeah.
And then we used the phone and then we were like, oh, it makes sense for what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it does make sense. And then the first Reno was launched, I think, as a high-end device, and then it became a mid-range device the year after that. We're like, oh wait, no, not
Yeah.
the year after that, 2 years after that.
Yeah. And
We're like, what is going
this
on here?
this year it's even cheaper. So the
Yeah.
Reno 6 comes in at about 2399.
Okay.
And the 6Z comes in at 1699.
Okay, that's not bad considering.
Yeah.
Not,
And
it's not the cheapest, but
I
considering what
I
you're
would
getting, it's
say
not bad.
it's given color OS,
Mm-hmm.
it may be a good buy, but I will reserve my opinion after we've tested it.
until after we tested it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Asus also, well, they didn't really launch this phone. They just made it available. So this is, I think, 5-6 months late already. Okay, the Asus ROG Phone 5 was launched, I don't know, somewhere in March or April,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, in Malaysia, and you could have bought that phone for a while, but there is one version that they kept teasing. It keeps saying, "Oh, coming soon, coming soon, coming soon," and that's the ultimate variant, like the ROG Phone 5 variant, ultimate variant, where you have like the LED thing at the back. They call it ROG Vision, I think. That
Yeah.
LED matrix thing lah. Basically, you can customize how it wants to look, and it comes with 18 gigabyte of RAM.
It's crazy.
Why?
Especially on a smartphone. Why do you need so much RAM?
Exactly. I feel that, that's just overkill. But if you do want an overkill smartphone, it is available for pre-order, or I think it's still on pre-order phase, right? For 4,999 ringgit. It's
Yeah.
not cheap also. Uh,
It's about the same price as the ultimate versions of the previous ROG phones.
yeah, technically for that money also you can buy a Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, I think, right? And
Yep.
that's I actually think that's a better buy to me.
Is it
Just my opinion.
is it Mark II or Mark III now?
The new one is Mark III, but the Mark III is not really announced in Malaysia yet, I think. If I'm not wrong.
I can't really remember already.
Yeah, I
Too
can't
many.
remember. There's too many smartphones. Oh, also, last week was Acer Day, and they didn't really launch new products. They sort of refreshed their old products to newer hardware, right? So they have two new gaming monitors, the Predator X34, the ultra wide one, and the new Nitro X25 processor, XV25 not processor, monitor. These are two new gaming monitors. Not really new also lah. They just updated it a little bit. So the Predator one is slightly more interesting at 1440p with up to a 390 hertz in refresh rate. Why you would do that, I don't know, but yeah, you can.
I keep getting that this is a podcast. My face just contorted. Like 390 hertz. Why?
Yeah, I mean, the most advanced 1440p monitors now, most of them go at 165 hertz. It's 390 hertz. That's more than double that, right?
Yeah.
But the native refresh rate is actually 144 hertz. So yeah, and it's not very cheap. Also, it's 3,999 ringgit. So yeah, that's like
Why?
a price of a PC.
I think you
But
can get a Nitro for that price as well.
yes, you actually can get a Nitro for less than 3,999. But they do launch two new PCs with it, like pre-builds. One is the Nitro 50. It's a 18-liter case PC that comes with i7 or i5 and up to a 1660 Ti, if I'm not wrong. Okay, and that goes for 3,399, which is cheaper than the Predator monitor itself. Um, and then there's the Orion 3000, which starts at 3,899. This is the i5 with, I think, 1650. This is the entry level. Okay, that's 3,899, which is actually not bad for a price, right? And then it goes all the way up to 6,899 ringgit for an i7. That's the 11th Gen one and RTX 3070.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then AMD also launched something new last week. The previous week, you remember, they launched GPU, and that took up most of our time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this week, well, last week, they launched a new APU. Now, what is an APU? It's a CPU with integrated graphics. This is the AMD Ryzen 5000G series APU.
Yep.
It's now a 5600G and a 5700G. So that's a Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 7. And this brings us to a question, like because a lot of our friends also ask us, like, is it better if you're in a market for a PC now, is it better to buy a pre-built, a laptop, or build one yourself? What do you think?
For me, it would be a build because laptops upgradability is a question. But
Hmm.
if you're not planning to upgrade, by all means, go for a laptop. They're so much cheaper than a build right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because I think if you're desperate for a PC now and you're not thinking about too much on, oh, I need a super power PC and stuff like that. Like, I actually think laptops is a good go-to right now.
Yeah,
Seriously.
I mean, both of us are technically working off gaming laptops,
Yeah.
and it
And
can
they're still
handle what
okay.
we need to do it.
Yeah, they're still okay. It records our podcast, it edits our videos, stuff like that. And compared to buying a build, like building your own PC right now, my goodness.
It would be a fraction of the price, but at the same time, if you're looking at upgradability in the future,
Hmm.
I think even with AMD CPUs at this point, you are looking at upgrading next year if you want to be quote unquote future proofed for the rest of AMD's upgrade cycle.
True, yes.
So I think given that you might want to hold off a little bit, maybe until like February to actually consider building your own PCs.
Yeah. That's funny because I also say the same thing to like some of my friends who's like, oh, I need a PC now and stuff like that. I told them, I actually asked them first. It used to be us asking them, oh, what's your budget, right?
Yeah.
Now it's us asking them, can you wait? Like, can you hold off that purchase for now? Like, I
Yeah.
know it may not be a problem for you, but at the same time, we know it's a problem, right? Budget may not be a problem for you, but it is going to be a problem the moment you see the price tag of every part that you're gonna get.
Yeah. So for me, like my desktop literally gave out after a decade.
Mm,
I was running the Intel Core i5 to 2500K,
right.
and it basically just died and it needs to be replaced.
Mm.
I have been waiting for the better part of a year because just to replace the motherboard and the processor, it's setting me back about 4,000 ringgit.
And that's just for two parts, you know. It's not like you're not like trying to change your whole PC. 4,000 ringgit is not very little money.
Yeah, and
Prices have gone down a little bit, to be fair, but
they've gone back up though.
it's fluctuating. It's
The That's the thing.
endless fluctuating this whole year.
For me to actually make the PC usable, I actually need to add in RAM to the equation.
Right.
And
Yeah.
without RAM, it's already 4,000 ringgit.
Yeah. So it really doesn't make sense. But also you have to think about it in the sense that, oh, if I buy a laptop, wouldn't I get slightly less power than, the PC counterpart with a desktop counterpart? And I will say yes. But but if you're getting like the 11th generation Intel Tiger Lake or even like the 5000 series AMDs, the CPUs at least, and if you're getting an RTX 30 series card on your laptop, you're not actually that far off from your desktop build, actually. Like
Yeah.
a modern desktop build in power,
And
in terms of power wise lah.
you're not actually losing out on much because when you plug in the laptops, they run pretty well.
They
Like
do.
don't let's not take into consideration the fact that they are meant to be portable.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're using them, like for us, most of the times when we're doing work, it's plugged in.
Yep.
They run really well.
Yeah. And another thing is that if you're really on a tight budget, laptops do save you some electricity bill.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, actually. Think about it this way, because the Triton 500 that I'm running right now with a RTX 2070 and a Core i7, the 10th gen, the power brick is a 230 watt power brick. And it's enough to keep it running and even keep me playing games like, Red Dead Redemption 2, stuff like that. If you buy a desktop PC right now, you're gonna have to get at least 500 watts of your power supply to run everything.
Yeah, and that's with a lower end GTX card.
This don't even consider a lower end GTX card. Even if you get an APU, you're gonna have to get at least a 450 to 500 watt power supply. And while it won't run all the way up to 400 watt in power consumption, but the power draw is actually significantly higher than a laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you're comparing between desktop and laptop now, we'll always tell you maybe just buy a laptop. Like if you're desperate for it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe think about buying a laptop.
And to be very honest,
I
prices
cannot
on
believe we're saying this.
yeah, this coming from us is very rare. And it's very shocking. We actually spent 2 hours building a dream build on when we were in the office. So
Mm,
for us to say get a laptop is really something for us.
it is because we've always been championing desktops, and I don't think it's just us. Everybody else has been too. And if we're going to be fair about, the prices of desktop parts being super high, the prices of laptops hasn't been exactly cheap either, right? Because I think a lot of the shops came back to us and say that prices of laptops this year is actually way higher than the year before. It's way
Yeah,
higher than 2020 and even higher than what 2019.
I think some of the laptops that we have seen or reviewed
Mhm.
are close to double the price of the 2019 prices.
Correct. So they're not exactly cheap right now either. So we're not trying to say that, oh yeah, laptops are cheaper now. They're not. Okay, they're still very expensive. And if you ask us whether it's more worth whether it's better worth getting a desktop or a laptop, we will still say it really depends on what you want.
Yeah.
But to us, for both of us, we still want desktops, which is it's not
Yeah, it
doesn't make
we are
sense.
desktop people, and but to be very fair, be given the current climate of the market
Hmm.
and the fact that you have so much additional cost when it comes to building a desktop,
Yep.
you're paying for a complete system with a laptop.
Correct. You have to think
And
about
that
it.
is what matters. So, like for me, I've been wanting to build a new desktop for the
Hmm.
longest time. I
Hmm.
think Darwin can vouch for this. I've been mentioning it for past 2-3 years
Yep.
because my it was a matter of time before my desktop died,
Hmm.
and it meant that I needed to invest. And initially, it was going to cost me 8,000 to build a water cooled system.
Right. It's way more than that now.
Yeah, it's hitting 11,000. At that point, I'm like, I better pay the down payment for a car.
Yeah. You might actually need to spend to fork out 10 to 15,000 for a proper water cool build today. And
Yeah,
this is not even using custom water blocks. This is using AIOs. Not
yeah,
not even considering custom water blocks. That's gonna set you back even more. Because you have to consider the fittings, the tubing and stuff like that. You have to put all of that into account. Right? Now that's building your own PC. Some people like think, oh, we're not gonna carry the PC around anyway. So what about pre-builds?
there are some on the market that are really, really worth it.
A lot of them are not though.
Yeah, like I think you brought this up last week. There's the Asus Tough
Hmm.
pre-built and
Hmm.
the Acer Orion
Yeah.
9000, right?
Orion 3000. The one that
3,000.
just launched. The one that
Yeah.
just launched in Acer Day. So I got to comparing prices last week because I was checking out. Oh, okay, this is the new Orion 3000, and I was looking at the price 6,899. This is not including your monitor, your keyboard, your mouse, and a headphone. Although if you did buy yours last week, okay, in the Acer Day, you probably would have gotten a free headphone anyway, right? So not bad. That's
Yeah.
actually not a bad deal. But what you're getting with it is an Intel Core i7, the 1175G, I think, the 1175, I think something like that, right? But it's
Yeah.
an 11th generation Core i7 for gaming, right? It's not unlocked. Uh, it's not strictly unlocked, okay? So you can't really overclock it all the way up, but there's some overclocking tweaks within, I think, Acer's Predator Sense software itself, right?
Yeah.
You get 16 gigs of RAM, okay, which is sufficient, like way more than sufficient. Actually, 16
Yeah.
gigabyte of RAM is more than enough for a lot of games today. I think 512 gigabytes of storage. And get this, you're getting an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 for
That's actually
6,899.
pretty good.
Yes.
That's a lot cheaper than the bill that I had to
Yeah.
it's
No, like
it's
seriously,
close
think
to
about
half the
it.
price.
Think about it. Not it's not cheap. Okay, I will not say that 6,000 and above ringgit, nearly 7,000 ringgit here is cheap. It's not. Okay, it's still quite a bit of money for you to spend on a PC. And especially if you're getting the PC without a monitor, a keyboard, or even a mouse. Okay, you don't even get speakers for it. Right? It's not cheap. It's really
Yeah.
not. But considering what you're getting for the build, I checked the price. I went on the internet to check price for the Nvidia GeForce RTX 3070. Okay, and the
Uh,
cheapest that I could find was about 4,000 ringgit.
yeah. I think the cheapest I saw was about 3,800 something.
Yeah, and that's for one GPU.
The GPU will run you the cost of the PC. I am not kidding you. Like even
Yes.
for my replacement PC,
Mm-hmm.
I have to reuse my old graphics card first because the prices of graphics cards is just so outrageous at this moment.
It's insane. I mean, think about it, right? If this is the cheaper end of the spectrum. This is not even considered like reference cards, right? You technically can't really find reference cards in the market currently, and the Orion 3000 comes with the reference card, I think. The Asus TUF one comes with their own Asus TUF RTX 3050, if I'm not wrong, or was it GTX 1660 Ti? Can't remember. I think you can spec it up to all the way up to 3060, I think.
Yeah, I think you can
Yeah.
go all the way up.
Yeah, and it's slightly cheaper than the Acer one, the Orion, right? But it's not that expensive. You're still getting a Core i7 for it. And a GTX 1660 Ti is still powerful enough, like plenty powerful. And that's about 4,000 plus ringgit, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, right? While you don't get a lot of the parts, like you don't get like the monitor, you don't get a keyboard, you don't get the mouse, considering that's actually pretty cheap.
Given that other like the parts alone,
Yeah,
if you add
parts
them
alone.
up, okay,
Yes.
GPU is gonna run you for us, it will run us a minimum of 3K.
Minimum. And that's not even considering like you're getting the Nvidia GeForce RTX 3070 if we follow our spec, right?
Yeah.
That's not even coming from a super reputable board partner. This is
Yeah.
something from like a Power Color or something like that, or Palit.
Yeah. And that's
This is
the
not
thing.
Asus.
It's not one of the big brands. It's one of the
Yeah,
smaller brands.
Yeah,
And
you can't
on
even
top,
get an OC version of it, like
yeah,
overclocked version. No way.
and on top of that, you are going to have to buy motherboard,
Mm, which is not
which you
cheaper for
will
now.
want to buy a reputable brand.
Yeah,
You need a cooling system.
you need a power supply.
You
Don't
need a
forget your power
power
supply.
supply. You
And
need
you
your
want,
RAM.
and here's the thing about power supply, you don't want to cheap out on power supply. You really don't.
Yeah, you really, really don't. I have
Yeah,
cheapoed on power supplies and ended up regretting it a few months later.
it will blow up.
And if your power supply blows up, you don't know whether it's your power supply alone or did it take other casualties.
Correct. You don't want that, right? So you don't really want to cheap out on your power supply. And I think the other day I was checking numbers for the power supply as well. A 650 watt, I think, will run you about 400 ringgit to 500 ringgit
Yeah,
currently.
around
Correct me
that.
if I'm wrong. Yeah, so it's not cheap. It's really not cheap. So after considering all that, I was just looking. This was, I think, Friday when I was talking to Jeevan about the Acer Predator Orion 3000. We're not sponsored by Acer for this podcast, by the way. Okay. But I was just looking at that. I'm like, if I'm going to get an Asus tough RTX 3070 card, that's already 5,000 ringgit on its own.
Yeah.
This desktop unit, this whole thing is 6,899 ringgit. I'm like, wait, that's actually
he,
not bad.
he actually, David actually just messaged me and was like, "Oi, you need to replace your desktop, right? You go and check the Orion."
Yeah, it's actually not bad. Like, if
It's
he's
not
gonna spend
bad.
4,000 ringgit on a motherboard and a CPU setup, right? Hey, you might as well get this, man. Just top up a bit more, right?
It's the whole set, and I don't need a
It's a whole
monitor.
set.
I don't need speakers. I don't need a keyboard.
Exactly. And it's a very, very, very powerful setup. It's super powerful. It's
Yeah,
an RTX 3070 and a Core i7. That's enough for gaming, like more than enough.
I forget gaming. It's enough to run gaming. It's enough to run my home server.
Yeah, well, you need to add more hard drives into it, lah, obviously, but you can. It's not a big problem, right? And the best part is that when you look at the internals, it's not like the Alienware systems where they pack it all in and it looks like an alien hardware inside because you don't understand how they pack everything in. Okay. And the cooler doesn't look proper. There's a lot of restrictions in airflow and stuff like that, just for them to fit in a small case, right? You look at it, it actually looks normal. You can upgrade everything on your own. So
Which
think about
is a
that.
big plus.
Very big plus because like a proper desktop tower setup for you, like I think if you can get a chassis, right, an aluminium chassis from a reputable brand, that's gonna set you back at least 300 to 500 ringgit.
I think when we were building that dream build, we ended up getting a chassis that was nearly 1,000 ringgit,
Yeah, but
if
we
not
were
more.
going for like a full tower build, right? And that's
Yeah,
not cheap because there's more materials. But like if you're going for a regular tower, like a mid-sized tower, 300-400 ringgit is a sort of reasonable amount of money for you to get on a reputable big brand, right? And if you don't mind cheaping out, it's about 150 ringgit. But you get a cheaper chassis lah, basically, and you have to spend
yeah.
on fans and whatnot, right? This one, no, this one is coming from Acer. It looks like a normal PC chassis, right? You have the PSU shroud, you have some slots for additional, I think, hard drives and stuff like that. You get an 80 plus gold certified PSU also, although it's only 500 watts. Okay, admittedly, that's a bit small for a 3070. I would actually
Yeah.
add a little
I
bit more, but
I would go up to either a 650 or 750.
yeah, just to be on the safe side. But it is enough. It is enough to run the PC, and really, it's not really that expensive. I was like looking at it, huh?
It's not really that expensive, but given the economic climate right now,
Yeah,
it's
six
still a bit of an
thousand
ouch.
6,899 is still not a small amount of money. It's still
Yeah,
a lot of money to us. That is to be fair, right?
but it is cheaper than a lot of options out there.
Yes, it is cheaper than a lot of pre-builds out there. It's cheaper than building your own PC. That's for sure. Like,
Yeah,
I never understood that. Like, that's the part that kind of blew my mind a little bit this year, I think. Like, buying PC laptops and even like pre-builds now makes more sense than buying and building your own desktop. It's
which was
never been like
never
that.
the case.
Yes, it's never been like that. So we kind of struggle to understand that a little bit. And that's why we come up with the question like, so if you want to buy or if you need a PC now, which one should you go for kind of thing?
Yeah,
Right?
but I think it's the correct question for current situation
It
because
is. It is.
some people need the PC for studies. Some
Mm,
people need the PC for work.
mm.
But at the same time, when you're building a desktop, you're not looking at something that you can use for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, you want it to last you like 10.
Yeah, which my desktop actually did.
Yeah.
And you're building for a long period of use, or
Yes.
you will be upgrading in between here and there.
True. That is if you're going to buy a either a pre-built or you building your own PC, right? And when you buy a pre-built, I always think that pre-builds are not worth it because they are designed very weirdly.
They are designed weirdly and they used to be more expensive than building
They used to
yourself.
be a lot more expensive, right? Their chassis design is not only weird, it's uncustomizable. It's not user friendly at all, right? But with the right setup, I think a pre-built is quite good at this point, at this price point.
Yeah, at this price point, in this climate, yes.
Yes, it is. Even if they are probably using slightly older hardware, they make they make quite a lot of sense.
Yeah.
For some reason, this is just weird, okay? But ultimately, I think if you want to buy a new PC at this point, I'll say don't if you can, if you're not
If
desperate.
you can wait it out, wait it out.
Yeah, just save your money a little bit, wait it out. If you really need something to work with, can I suggest a Chromebook?
For word
I
processing, yes.
I know Chromebooks are not the best out there, and we haven't been very kind ourselves to Chromebooks, right? We haven't really published a review of Chromebook or a Chrome OS tablet because we're not very fond of it. Like, to be really honest, for what we do, we're not super fond of it. But like,
Yeah.
all you need to do is just check your emails and do simple word processing. Give it a think because they are really cheap and they're going for even cheaper now.
Yeah. And if you are working on Google Cloud, even more reason.
Exactly. But yeah, ultimately, I think maybe not buy a PC now. Like, if you can. Like, if you really absolutely have to, probably get a laptop. Or if you want that kind of power, maybe buy a pre-built. But also really depends on what you can afford, I think. Right? Just go back to depending on your budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is all the time we have for the show. Today we've run quite long also because this is an issue that's quite close to our heart, okay? Because people actually come up to ask us like, hey, I want to buy a PC now. Like, what should I buy?
Yeah. And a lot of people are actually coming up to us and asking us for advice for even their companies, like what laptop should they buy.
Exactly. So we keep telling them, look, if you can hold it out, just hold it out because prices are not encouraging. And that's I think the most common thing I say to people these days. Like when they ask me, hey, I want to buy a PC. So should what kind of PC should I buy? Should I buy a desktop or should I buy a laptop or should I build my own? And I always tell them, save your money, wait until next year.
It is a trend.
It is. It is a trend. We're starting to say that a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if you are looking for an advice, okay, on whether or not you should buy a PC or you should build a PC or you should buy a laptop, please do take our advice into account. Save your money, probably just wait if you're not desperate, right? If
Yeah.
you are really desperate, probably buy a laptop, but don't get yourself a super expensive one. Get something that you sort of need and kind of can use. I think that's the best advice that we can give you today. So, if you've been listening through the whole show, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for listening to us ramble about the prices of PC today. Like, old people.
And talk about how much we want to buy a PC but can't.
Yes, but do give us a shout out, do give us feedback. You can find us on our website, okay? Our website, www.techn.tv, also features new reviews. We're coming up with a Dell G5 gaming laptop review. Is that
G5
right?
and G15.
G5 and G15 gaming laptop review very soon. Do check it out. And of course, for the latest update on techn.tv, you can always head out to our social media. You can see photos there of teasers and whatnot for our new upcoming projects and product reviews. That's on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and even on LinkedIn. We are TechNTV across the channel. That is TECHENT TV. Of course, we're also available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, so you can actually give us feedback on all of those. And do follow us on wherever you are so that you can get the latest podcast every week. We do this podcast every week, so if you want to listen in to us, do subscribe. Oh, please.
Yeah.
And do support us, basically. So thank you for listening in. This is me, Darwin, and Jeevan signing out. Bye.
See ya.